So I started following Sam Ovens in 2022, the summer of 2022, and I listened to a lot of his audio recordings on Spotify. And I think the biggest takeaway I took from those, I remember I was walking back to the gym and home from the gym, and I was listening, and I was taking notes as I was walking, and I remember I even remember exactly the spot I was listening to this audio, when Sam Ovens was asked what he would do if he would go back with nothing but just his knowledge. So if he would start over, which is a very interesting question. It's a very good question. And Sam Ovens has made tens of millions of dollars. And it's you should definitely, I was like, this is interesting. Like, how, if he's in my position, because I was basically starting out. I was maybe 1 year into trying to build a business. And I was like, this is interesting. What would he do? And he said he would read a book every week. And he was basically talking about the actions he would take. The very concrete, clear actions of what he would do. And that kind of stuck out to me. I don't know why, but reading books, one book a week, really stood out to me. And it never really left me. It always, since that time, has been a part of like my everyday habits. Like there are very few days in the last 4 years I haven't read. So this is something I've taken and really taken seriously. And I could go into the topic of like which books you should read, but that's not really part of the video today. What I can tell you is that I've basically read since 2022. I counted this a few months ago. I think I read plus 180 books. Now it's probably closer to 190 at least. It probably is around 200 right now, since 2022, which is basically one book a week. And also I've read some books many times. For example, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. I've read that book more than 10 times. And there are many books I've read more than twice. Some books I've read 3 times. But that's not the interesting part. I wanted to tell you that now I've started reading like this classic business books. Eugene Schwartz and Robert Cialdini and Tony Robbins. There are many of them, 200 of them. But now I've gotten to a point where I'm more interested in reading classics. So I'm kind of really into reading Penguin classics. So I've started reading Dostoevsky, Tolstoy. I'm reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I'm reading Discourses by Epictetus. There are many of them. Many Penguin classics I'm reading. But I'm kind of more pulled into those types of books right now, which are actually much better, especially like Dostoevsky than Think and Grow Rich. So that is how an interesting just side way about which books I'm more drawn to right now. I'm kind of got into a point where like I read a book about dopamine, which is like a New York bestseller, and I felt like I'm not getting anything new from this book anymore. Every book is kind of like pointing to the same truth. It's like you're just reading the same things, but from a different author. It's like, I'm not interested in that anymore. I want to read like really deep stuff. Anyway, going back to the main idea of this video. So I've taken this very religiously of like reading one book a week by Sam Ovens. And why, like, you'll hear this advice a lot, like you should read a lot of books. But I don't think we really understand, and I've been meditating a lot on this recently about reading books, because I'm basically obsessed about reading books. I'm addicted to it, like 100%. The thing I'm most addicted to by far is reading. It's not even a question. And you could start talking about going to the conversation of like it's more important to do. Like if you read, for example, I also want another thing. I really like biographies. I really like biographies. One of the best books I've ever read is Steve Jobs' biography, also Elon Musk's biography, his first one, and also the new one by Walter Isaacson. And currently I'm reading Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity book, and that's also a really good book. I really like biographies since it's storytelling, which I will get to soon. And also, if you take a look at like Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, I'd read The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Sorry for the wrong pronunciation of that word, but I read that book. I also read, I don't remember. I read Confessions by Saint Augustine. There's so many books, but and there's stories, which I will get back to soon. But reading is something that I've been thinking a lot about. Like, why is it so important to read? To end the earlier thing, like, it's more important to do the action instead of just reading theory. And you can take a look at a person like Elon Musk, and you'll see that when he was in his early 20s / mid 20s, he founded Zip2. I think it was 1995, and he basically was 100% doing action. He was not reading anything. It was just all in building the business Zip2, which he built for like 5 years. I don't remember how many years. I think it was 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 3 years. And then he sold Zip2 and became a multimillionaire. But so if you like study people, which is once again the kind of the main idea of this video, which is Isaac Newton's most famous quote: "If I have seen further, it is because I've been standing on the shoulders of giants." That's kind of the main topic of this video, because I can learn from the story of someone like Elon Musk and apply it, because it's proven. Like, you do this action and he gets this reaction. He perfects the product for many years, and then he sells it and becomes a multimillionaire. And so I don't want to, like, I'm completely agree that action is more important than reading, because I was back like maybe a year ago, I was very much into the problem of like, I'm only reading, I'm not taking any action, which is it's a different discussion, which it's not. I've already learned that lesson. So now I'm more like reading 20% and then working 80%. That's kind of my, or 90-10, 70-30. Like somewhere like the majority of my time is spent doing outreach, and then the minority of my time is spent reading. But still, reading is so important. Why is reading so important? This is because it's the main idea of this video. I want you to understand why reading is so important, because if you understand truly why it's so important, I think that you will start doing it. And you can take a look at like a person like Charlie Munger, who passed away a few years ago. He said that he was a multi-billionaire. He said that I've known no people who are very wealthy who has not read a lot. You have Warren Buffett, who basically spends his 80% of his time reading. He's more into reading economic stuff. I don't know what it's called, but information about companies, basically, reports on the economics of a business, microeconomy. He spends his 80% of his time just reading to build his mindset, basically, and I'll get to that. So when you read, and I think definitely, especially when you read stories, I have a very strong, and also maybe the title for this video is Sam Ovens. I think that Sam Ovens earned tens of millions of dollars because of reading books. The core of why Sam Ovens earned tens of millions of dollars is because he read a lot of books. I think he's read over 1,000 books, and now he's gotten to a point where he's like, I don't want to read books anymore. I don't think he reads at all anymore, which is also an interesting discussion, but not for this video. And I really find that very interesting. 1,000 books, what does that do to a person? And you could also take like a person like Charlie Morgan, which has basically been my Sam Ovens. Charlie Morgan has been kind of my mentor in the way that I've been studying his material religiously, like very seriously. I watched so many videos. There's been many. I remember I spent like an entire month, or not an entire month, but I think 2 weeks is watching tens of hours. 50 hours of content. I studied Charlie Morgan a lot because I want to learn from him, and he's also read a lot of books, don't get me wrong, but he has learned a lot of. I think that Sam Ovens has been more important to him than books, because I don't think Charlie Morgan has read. I don't think books has been as important for Charlie Morgan as it has been for Sam Ovens. And that's because Sam Ovens didn't have Sam Ovens to study and to learn from, because he started his business before there were any like giants to stand on the shoulders of. So he had to read from people. He had to read from people, but it's basically the same idea here. So there's just different, and you take a guy like Alex Hormozi, I think his biggest influence of all time has been Robert Cialdini's books. I might be wrong. These are just from me watching these guys and the takeaway I have. I think that Alex Hormozi's biggest takeaway, Alex Hormozi's biggest influence in his life, which is also kind of a funny, ironic influence, has been Robert Cialdini. And I made a video about this for a long time on a different channel about talking about this idea of standing on the shoulders of giants. And now I can stand on the shoulders of Alex Hormozi, of Sam Ovens, and of Charlotte Morgan, and so many other people. But the idea is very the same here. What are books? Books are stories. So, for example, if I would write a book now from everything that I learned to get it from when I started, basically for my 5 years of working and try to build a business. First of all, the book wouldn't fly if I didn't have if I had a very high salary, because this is also another very interesting thing, is that we only listen to people that we see that they have something that we want, because then we assume that they know how to get what we want. And for me, this has been a lot to do with Sander Stage. I don't think you know Sander Stage. Sander Stage has not built this brand like Sam Ovens or Charlotte Morgan or Alex Hormozi. But Sander Stage was the guy, for me, the first guy who introduced me to having your online business and making money online. And what he did was very, very smart. He built an Instagram account where he basically kind of showed his life. He showed the girls, he showed the car, he showed the travel, the expensive watch, kind of this dream life for the average man. And that makes you think that, okay, he has these things, he knows how to get those things, okay, and then I should listen to him. So that's why he becomes his authority, which is basically one of the rules which Robert Cialdini talks about in influence. Authority, it has such a huge influence. There's so many crazy examples of this, but Sander Stage has been the person that has really influenced me in that regard, which basically meant that I've followed his stuff and tried to learn from him. I don't think that he is not smart. I think that he's bad at educating. Or I don't want to, that might be harsh, but I think that I have not learned as close as to what I've learned from Charlotte Morgan, from Sander Stage, as I would learn from Charlotte Morgan. Charlotte Morgan has really made me learn so much. Same thing goes for Sam Ovens. They're very, very good at teaching, especially Sam Ovens. He's very good at teaching. And then you could talk about why are they so good at teaching? Because they know their stuff so good. And this is talking about Einstein says if you can't really teach about something, you don't really know what you're talking about. If you can't simply explain the things you're teaching, you don't understand it on a deep level. Now I still think that Sander Stage is very, very smart. I just didn't learn from him. But what I did do, I studied him, I bought his course. That's kind of what I want to take away. I bought his course for, I think it was 800 euros. And I did not buy Charlotte Morgan's course. I did not buy Sam Ovens' course, even though Sam Ovens was kind of before I started doing this. I bought his course because of that idea. He showed this live on his Instagram. I think that's kind of why so many people bought from him. He built this, and there's so many people who does this, but I think he's the absolute best person of building a dream world on Instagram. So I bought his course. But when I think about that course, I don't remember anything that I learned. The only thing that I do remember from Sander Stage is that he recommended Steve Jobs' autobiography, and I bought it without even knowing why I bought it. It was in my bookshelves for years. I read it 2 years ago, no, 1 year ago, it was one of the best books I've ever read. That's the only thing I remember, Sander Stage. And the important part here is, first of all, that I did not learn anything by center stage. And two, I bought his course. I learned a lot about from Charlie Morgan and some events, that's also just a side note. Sorry for all my side notes. I have to do more videos on YouTube to be better at this. But going back to like the idea here. So books are stories. Books are so. And another very interesting thing is, which is, I don't want to be. I don't know if I want to be that in the future, but right now I don't think I really want to talk about religion. The thing I can say is I believe in Jesus, and I believe Jesus is God, and I believe that the New Testament is God, like kind of giving us the manual to life, basically. I fully respect your beliefs. I don't want you to stop watching this video. I just want to talk about one thing, which is why is it that the Bible, for example, it's a lot of storytelling. Now let's just play with the theory that it is truth, just for the sake of my point of this. Why would God not like give you like an instruction manual, like you buy something from IKEA, for example, and it would be very like, you want step number 1, you do this, step number 2, you do this, step number 3. Why would it? Because that's something I've been struggling with trying to understand the Bible. It's kind of difficult sometimes, and it's a lot of storytelling. And if this is truth, then why would the creator of the universe, which is kind of like incomprehensible, we can't even understand how big this is, like, why would the things that is written in the Bible, first of all, the Bible is a book, that's like one thing, but why would it be written in stories and not like there are the 10 Commandments, for example, correct, but I mean the majority of the book is storytelling. It's something I just want you to reflect on. Why are there so many stories here? And I think the book, one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life is Steve Jobs' book, his autobiography by Walter Isaacson. And another book that is one of the best books I read is the book about Elon Musk. These are stories. They are not this traditional the basic self-help book is like it's very good to read. Read a lot of books. Full stop. That's kind of the sum of like a self-help book. They teach you a lot of things. Like, you should do this, you should do that. And that then they kind of leave you with that. And I'm making it more simple than this, but that's basically what self-help books are. And I don't think that's kind of helpful. I think that it doesn't change people. It's not it doesn't change people. Stories, however, is you read something, and so for example, you read Dostoevsky, or you can there's so many, you could read Man's Search for Meaning. Like, you kind of read a story, and in that story you kind of get so immersed in the story that you kind of feel like you're in the world that the person is writing about. Okay, and that makes me, the reader of the book, kind of feel emotions, and almost like it's like you're watching a movie, and you get you're in the movie theater, and you forget you're in the movie theater. You're one with the picture. You're in flow state. You're one with the picture. It's the same thing when you're reading for a long time. You kind of get sucked. You forget that you're reading. You forget your environment. You are in the world that the author is writing about. That's why books are so addictive for a lot of people. I mean, romance novels, for example. They're so good. They're so well written that you kind of for moments experience the world that they're talking about. And if you take like I read I don't remember the book name by Tolstoy. Anyhow, I read a book by Tolstoy, and I'm like really moved by this story. Yeah, okay. Dostoevsky is Notes from Underground, and so I was mixing those two up. It's Death of Ivan Ilyevich. That's the book I read by Tolstoy, and I'm kind of like I'm reading the book. It's a very, very short book. And I'm so emotionally affected by the things I'm reading. You should read the book yourself. But basically, it's this. The one thing I took away is like a friend died, and it's a friend from work who gets the reads in the newspaper. My friend died. He's a lawyer, and then he's like thinking about what to do now. Like he's so obsessed about himself. He's so like the world is centered around him. It's like, what should I do now? So I don't want to go there and see his widow, but I should. And I was like, this is so insane. Like, I'm like, wow, a person died, and he's like worrying about like, should I do this? Should I do that? Do I have to go to like? It's so crazy to me. But I'm so why I'm telling you this is because I'm so like one with the story that I'm like, it's like I'm experiencing it. Okay. That's kind of the key here. A good book makes you kind of experience the experiences that the author has experienced. And and how do you change beliefs? I don't want this to be too long of a video. It's already too long, and I'm feeling very like distracted right now. But if you, for example, if you want to make a lot of money, you probably know what you have to do. You have to do outreach, you have to do sales calls, and you have to have a good product. You know that. You know what you have to do. And there are other examples, like if you're overweight and you want to lose weight, you know what you have to do. You have to eat less and move more, but you don't. Why? This is kind of a common question that people have been asking themselves for a long time. Why is it that some people achieve a lot while others don't? Why is it that one person earns $10,000, another person earns $100,000? What is the difference between these two people? I believe like we all have kind of the same potential of like achieving stuff. There's been stories where people have been homeless and they have become a billionaire. There's so many examples that proves this that I think that basically Steve Jobs also said this, like if you look around everything in your room. So I have a screen here, I have an iMac here. This was built by someone who's not smarter than you and me. Basically, and I 100% believe, I 100% agree with that belief that we all have this potential. But why is it that some people achieve so much and so few people don't? Another thing, Sam Ovens built his course teaching other people to make money online. Now remember that Sam Ovens quit his job as a salesperson at a phone company in Australia, I think, or New Zealand, he started his own business. He was struggling a lot, and then he made some money. I don't know how long it took. It probably took him 1 year to make, I don't know if it was $100,000 a year. I don't know. It took us some time to make some money. But before that, he was like working as a salesperson at this phone company. There's a lot of work before this. That's what I want you to know. But he made a lot of money. He read a lot of books. That's kind of the theme of this video. He read a lot of books, and then he. From the information that he read about the book, kind of built a mindset to be able to make money. And then he started a course teaching other people to make money. And he saw that I'm literally telling these people, do X, Y, Z, and you will make this amount of money. And people still struggle with that. They still struggle with following his advice. He had authority. He had achieved it himself, but he still struggled. That's very interesting how that works. Like, he basically gave a recipe, and people still couldn't cook the food that they were gonna cook, and that really inspired him. Another example, like Maxwell Maltz, who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics. He was he did surgery. Sorry, I'm so lost right now. But he saw that, so he basically did surgery on like the nose for some people who thought their nose looked weird. And then he saw that they, like after the operation, after the surgery, they were still kind of like had this low self worth. And that really made him like very interested in like why is it that I'm basically doing the things. So I've been self-conscious about my teeth for a long time, and it's basically like I would get veneers, and after I would leave the room I would still be conscious about my smile. It's like it's deeper than the physical, the outside. That also interested him into like more focusing on the mental side. And I know that Psycho-Cybernetics is probably up there in the top most influential books for Samovans. I mean, it's like a common. I've given you a lot of examples now, but the main idea is like, why is it that we know what we have to do to get what we want to have, but we still don't do it? It's about mindset. It's about your beliefs. It's basically about, and your mindset is a collection of your beliefs. So, for example, you believe that I cannot make more than $5,000 a month. I cannot make more than $15,000 a month. I can tell you can make $50,000 a month, and you would not believe it. And there's a great Star Wars is great. I mean, George Lucas touched on this in Empire Strikes Back when he introduced the character of Yoda, and Yoda talks about like you have to unlearn what you've learned, and also like Luke Skywalker says that I don't believe it when Yoda moves the ship from the ocean up to the beach, and Yoda says like that's why he couldn't do it, because he couldn't believe it. So this is something people touched on for a long time, and basically your beliefs, and this is also something that Charlotte Morgan talks a lot about, so I don't want to talk too much about this, but your beliefs, you collect some collection of your beliefs is your mindset, and your mindset or your paradigm is what makes you like get what you want. I mean, it makes you get what you have. So, for example, an autopilot is a good example. So, if you're I've been on an airplane, and you have this pilot who puts on autopilot. There's a computer who's the driver of the airplane, right? And it's like if it's just moving. So if the plane moves like 1 degree to the left, and so it's going to be far off from the target, it moves back 1 degree. It's like it's auto-correcting itself. It's the same thing with your paradigm. So if you've been making $3,000 a month for 2 years, 1 year, and then you suddenly want to start to make $10,000. As soon as you like start to you have like a good month, so you make like $10,000 a month, but then you're like this autopilot that's steering you back to like no, you're gonna make $3,000. So the next month you make $0, and the next month after that you make $0. So that's you still average is $3,000 a month, a little bit more than that. And it's the idea like you have a paradigm, and a paradigm is basically yours, the habits that you have. So, for example, your job. You had a job for X amount of years, and you have during those years you have been doing these actions, and when you do certain action for enough period of time, it becomes a habit. And then the habit habit is basically you're not doing it consciously anymore. You're doing it subconsciously. You're not even thinking about it. And that's why when you try to change your habits, you can't. So it's basically habits. Like I read Confessions by St. Augustine 2 days ago, and one word that really stuck out to me was habits. He was talking about paradigm change. He was talking about like how he couldn't change his paradigm, but in other words, he couldn't change his habits, and he had bad habits. He was very much into lust, and he couldn't change course from like not falling into bad habits. And this is kind of what I'm getting to, like, and I'm kind of trying to kind of finish this video now, and it's so confusing, and I'm sorry for that. You change your beliefs. Your beliefs are what makes you your paradigm. So your beliefs is what makes you make the amount of money that you're making. And your beliefs come from experiences. And your experiences then, so you experience something in work, for example, that shapes your belief. So for example, if your colleagues are making this amount of money, that is a belief that, yeah, I can make more money than these people. There's so many beliefs that we have, but the very like the sum of all this is you have beliefs right now, and those beliefs are what makes your mindset, and your mindset is what makes your habits, which is what makes your paradigm, which is what makes you what you make a month. So take a person like Elon Musk. I think one person that really influenced Elon Musk was Alexander the Great. And take like a person like Charlie Morgan. I think a person that really influenced Charlie Morgan was Napoleon, and also Alexander the Great. But Napoleon, I think, is up there on the top. There's so many examples of this that you go find yourself, go find the people that you find interesting, find out like who has influenced these people, who has been the giants that they have been standing on the shoulders of. And I know that for Sam Ovens, it's been Maxwell Maltz who made psychocybernetics. It's been Eugene Schwartz. I think Eugene Schwartz is basically very up there for Sam Ovens, because he's teaching so valid such truth in advertising. I think also that Sam Ovens has been hugely influenced by the founder of Walmart in his book Made in America. There are many stories or many people that has shaped Charlie Morgan, Alex Hormozi, Sam Ovens, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. And it's kind of the same idea. Even if they watch a movie, or they read, or they hear about it from another person, I think reading is the best way. I don't know why, but I think reading is the best way, because it's I don't know why, but I think it might be movies, but I think that reading makes you think about it. You imagine the things that you're reading about, which is so much more than watching a movie, because then you're kind of not imagining it anymore. You're seeing. So stories, reading a book for someone. So for example, Titan Rockefeller I have that book at home. I haven't read it yet, but he is, if you adjust his net worth to inflation, he was richer then than Elon Musk is now. His net worth today, I think, would have been $500 billion. That's his credentials. That is his that is the reaction he has gotten. And then you read the story, like how did it happen from when he was born to when he died? Like how did it all happen? You read the book, and so the same thing for me happened when I was reading like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would probably be one of the people who has influenced me the most. So I'm reading the book, I'm reading how he made all the products. I've read George Lucas' biography, and that book really made me humanize a billionaire. And there's so many examples, but to kind of get the sum of this up, I'm trying to sum it up. You're reading stories from people who has achieved very big things, and those stories make you, when you're reading it, makes you as close as you can get to experience the same thing that person experienced. You feel emotions, you imagine things, and your body can't tell the difference between imagine and real. There's been a lot of studies about this. So when you read, it's like you're experiencing the stuff that person is experiencing. And what did I tell you before? The experience shape the belief. So when I read about something from Richard Branson, which I am right now, I'm getting the experiences he had. I'm getting as close as I can go before I have to actually experience it in my life to get that kind of a change in beliefs. So I know that, for example, the big moment for Sam Ovens was when he went to this island of his current girlfriend, or then current girlfriend, and her father, I think, was very rich, and that experience really changed his perception of like what is possible, and this could actually like happen. Like it kind of made him like humanize this lifestyle. That is an experience, and I can't think about a better example. You have to think about this for yourself, but think about an experience you had who really changed something about. Oh, I can tell you something about a very, very interesting short example. Once again, I've been conscious of my teeth for a long time, for many years, and that has been like kind of one of the obstacles for me to having a girlfriend. And so my belief was like, my teeth are ugly, and therefore I'm unattractive to women. Okay, and that belief made me not even try, like to the simple ask out, go on dates, basically. And then I was on a date, not so long ago, and she like told me on this date, like, show me your teeth. And it wasn't like, I don't know why she asked me that. I don't know why, but I didn't tell her about my insecurity. And then I showed her my teeth, and she said they're nice. And that was one of those moments where my whole system kind of like, and it felt authentic. So don't get me wrong, this is not I had not told her about this. She didn't know about my insecurity, and also I felt that it felt very well felt authentic. That crashed my belief system, which I had for years. So think about the best thing you can do is think about your own experiences about you had an experience and how it changed your beliefs. This is an example of that. Because you think you know what is truth. Your belief, that's something I read recently. You think that your beliefs is truth. And therefore you act upon those beliefs because you think they're truth. And I never really thought about it like that. Like, but you really believe that your beliefs are truth. It's such a... I never thought about it like that. And after that moment, I've been less... Like, the insecurity about my teeth is basically gone. I'm not even thinking about it anymore. Like I was before. I am thinking a little about it a little bit, but saying it's the thing is that experience crashed my beliefs, and you have to find a better example of this, because I realized that there are better examples of this, and I also like I could talk more about like dating, because that also very much changed my whole reality about women, and like. It's very interesting, but it's not a topic of this video. But so when I'm reading stuff by Richard Branson, and I'm very much focused and kind of almost in flow state, like I'm imagining stuff, I'm feeling stuff, I'm very much close to getting the experience that he had. And that changes my belief, like I just told you about the example. And that change in belief therefore changes my mindset. For example, what is possible. So for example, if I'm reading about a person who, like Steve Jobs, and I'm reading about how he created the first Apple I, and then it was a failure, and then he created Apple II, and that was a huge success, kind of one of the big success that built Apple in the early days. I'm getting the experiences of the struggles and so forth. It's not as close as you, because I know that Jeff Bezos talked about this in his biography, not autobiography. Yeah, I think it's the autobiography. And he talks about like you can't really, and it's also interesting talking about the Bible once again. A lot of people ask like, why is it that Jesus' life, or the New Testament, is only about like after he's 30 years old? And one of the apostles said that if we would fill the Bible with all the things that Jesus done, the book would be too thick. It would be impossible. And I think there's a problem with books. Like you can't really, you have to because one book could be like a lifetime. So take like Steve Jobs' book, that's a lifetime. There are many decades. and it's like 400, 500 pages long. Like one page is a lot of time, which basically you have to really think about which information you're going to provide. And so there are a lot of like obstacles to making it be this experience I'm telling you about. That is why I think the best books are the books like Dostoevsky, who are fiction and are more like story, and like really you get so immersed in it. Those are the absolute best books in changing people's belief, because those books it makes you be so close to experiencing the thing. And it's fiction, it's imagination, but you feel like it's reality. You feel like it's an experience you have. You feel like it's something you experience, which changes your belief. So I think that's why one of the reasons why I'm pulled more towards like Dostoevsky, because they get this story that you kind of can visualize the room they're in, and so forth. Even though my English is not so good to understand a lot of words, which also is an obstacle for me to like get to that close. If my English were perfect and I understood all the words in a book, like I would be so immersed in the experience that I'm very confident once again I would be experiencing the thing that this author is story is telling about. So what are books, and why should you read books? It's been a long video, but I think that now I finally got to my flow like of talking, because I've mentioned a lot of interesting things now. I think that books, great books, are stories, stories that you experience, and those experiences shape your beliefs, and those beliefs shape your mindset. And when you change your mindset, you can change your paradigm, and you change what you will then do. So when you are like some of us, you read 1,000 books, or like me, I read 200 books. Though the information I've gotten, even though I'm just starting to read, and now I'm kind of getting to a point where like I'm not even, I think next year is going to be 5 years since I started reading seriously. I think next year, the summer or the autumn of next year, is probably going to be when I start reading the exponential chart of like when I'm reading, and the things I'm getting from reading, because I've been doing this for 5 years now. And I think that's kind of a point where you start to get really get momentum. You get this exponential growth in like mindset, which is already kind of a little bit experiencing when I'm starting to read a lot more heavy books. And so reading is really what changes your belief. And I'm gonna end it at this, and it is about alchemy of self, and Samaven's course, of his mindset course. Because if you take a look at everything that Samaven has ever done, the most influential done he has created is the alchemy of self. The one thing that he's created that's influenced the most people is alchemy of self. And if you take a look at Charlie Morgan, the one thing that has changed his students the most has been his mindset course. I don't remember the name of that module on school, but it's a free course, and it's about mindset, and it's very similar to some of it. I've studied and watched a whole mindset course, the Alchemy of Self, the mindset modules by Sam Ovens. I think that is what is the thing is that's going to change people, like to reach these new levels of, if you're strictly talking about money here. I think it's more interesting to talk about other things, like relationships, for example, a girlfriend, or relationships is a huge interesting topic about, at least for me in my life. But if we're only talking about business here, if you want to go from like $3,000 to like $10,000, the thing that is stopping you is your mindset. It's 100% your mindset, or it's not 100%, but most likely your mindset. And if you're $10,000 a month and you're like Charlie Morgan, and you have been like, Charlie Morgan is a testament to like, to go from $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month, even though he had a partner, and I don't know about his profit margins, but it's different to like go from to $100,000 if you're two people, So then it's like $50,000. I'm talking about the salary basically. It's like $50,000, and then okay, what is profit margins? Because I think the only really interesting thing is the profit a person makes, the metric, that so to speak. So don't get so blindsided into okay, this guy makes $100,000, $200,000. What is the salary, the profit that you make? Because if you have a co-founder or like a co-owner, you're like 50% and so forth. I think that's important to also because if you're alone, you have to take it to look at it in your own eyes. You're alone, okay, and you're talking about salary to you. So $10,000 a salary is very different from like $50,000 in revenue, but then maybe that they have 20% profit margin and they're two people, then you're making more than them. Yeah, it's an example. So, but if you want to go from like these $10,000 a month to the $100,000 a month, and then to like $1 million a month, there are people like Sam and Morgan that is proof that it's about mindset. And you can read Alchemy of Self, but for me, it's gonna be books. Books are gonna be like kind of and I realized this. I really realized this, that if I want to stick with something for years, decades, it has to work for me, like, and what I like. Alchemy of Self is probably what's gonna work for you, most likely. I think Alchemy of Self or the Mindset module is kind of like the thing that works for most people. But me, the thing that works for me is reading books. That's the thing that I always go back to. That's the thing that I love the most, and that's the thing that I realize changes me the most. I read Dostoevsky and I read Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich and Notes from Underground, and I also read Confessions by Saint Augustine, and I'm reading Richard Branson right now. I've also read Eckhart Tolle's New Earth recently. I've read The Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler. These books, I am a different person to who I was before I read those books, and I realized this more and more. Once again, what did I tell you? I think the next year, in the summer or autumn, 2027, is going to be the year for me when I really start to get this exponential. I'm already feeling it. I can read one difficult book, and it has such a huge change to me in my actions, in my mindset, in how I feel about myself, and so forth. And I hope that you understand now why books change your life in a way that you don't. This is something you don't see per se. Like, you don't see the change until you do actions. So the moment you know for sure that okay, you have actually changed, is when you, for example, start to do more work consistently, and then you get a higher salary, which is kind of where I am right now. And I'm feeling more and more change in my mindset and my focus and where my mental state is. So I think that's it for this video. And what I really want you to take away is that reading changes your life. And I hope you understand now why it changes your life. And it's going to be interesting to make more of these videos. I want to have I'm probably going to talk about this in another video where I'm going to be better at telling you this, because this was really I could have said this much better. But it's interesting to have this video here, and to now you can follow me how and you can probably see just by me talking how I'm gonna be different. And I'm feeling right now more and more change in from when I read, and then to who I feel like after I've read. And I think that the reading is the secret recipe behind Sam Maltz's success. I think that the number one most influential, it's kind of the core idea of this video, which I really want you to like. I'm not a good example of that yet. Hopefully in the future. Sam Maltz though is a good example of just what I'm telling you about. And I could start talking about Alexander the Great, because I think Alexander the Great has influenced Elon Musk, who's the richest man on earth right now. And I could talk about how Alexander the Great had all of these other people influenced him and his mindset. who is a even better example of like standing on the shoulders of giants. I could tell you about how the most genius person in the world is, according to a lot of people, Isaac Newton, and how Isaac Newton read a lot of he that's his most famous quote, because all the things he changed the world so many ways, so many laws. I think he invented IRS in England. I think that he changed the world, and he read a lot. He read at least, I don't know if he read a lot of books, but at least the work with the experience of other people changed his mindset. And I could talk about like how I think that Shirley Morgan, one of the people that has influenced him the most also, if we're not talking about some of it, is Napoleon. And I think that's one of the people that has given Shirley Morgan the most confidence that he can achieve like $40 million a year profit. So there are many examples of this, of one person achieves a lot, like Sam Ovens. So let's stick with Sam Ovens in this example. Sam Ovens makes tens of millions of dollars online. And I think that reading books for him has been the biggest, by far, influence on how he got there. And you could maybe argue with me that it's the actions he took, like selling, outreach and sales calls and fixing his product. But I think once again you have to look at the example of like, you know what you have to do, but you don't. That's the thing that Sam Ovens realized when he built his course, is that he was telling his people, you have to do X amount of outreach, and you have to do Y amount of sales calls, and C amount of products sold a month to make money, and he basically told them everything he had learned. It worked, but people still didn't do it. So it's not about the action, it's about how you get to being able to do the action, and then so it becomes a habit. So you have like a consistently good months of high income. And I think by far the most important influence by Sam Ovens has been books, reading a lot of books. And if he could go back in time and start over with just the knowledge that he has, when I think about it, of course, he wouldn't even go back. He wouldn't even have the knowledge. He would just, before he started, okay, it's kind of paradoxical, because why would he read books if he already had that knowledge? I'm thinking about. I know what he means. He means that he would kind of give himself like a recipe, like this is what you have to do every day, and he would read books. That says so much, and I think that's why it stood out to me so much when I heard that. It was like my whole world changed after I heard, and that's once again my whole world changed after I heard that saying by Sam Ovens. I would read one book every day, and I've done it ever since. And to read one book every day for 4 years, which is around 200 books, is something I think very few people do. I think people read, but I think people read maybe 12 books a year, maybe 10 books a year. And I've also read one book I read more than 10 times. I read Dan Koh's Art of Focus 2 times, maybe even 3 times. I don't even remember. No, I think it's 2 times. But I wanted to read it another time. So this is huge information, and I was going back, like I don't think I would have done that if I really on a deep level would have believed that this is the secret that I've been looking for. So I think Sam Ovens has been one of the people that he's been one of the giants I've been standing on the shoulders of, and he's influenced me a lot. And I hope that I can influence people and help people, basically. And that's why I'm making this video, to kind of like tell you. I want it to be personal, because I think the best videos are when you're personal, which I've been a little bit in this video. But I'm not there yet to be the person who can give you the proof of like this works. That's what I'm talking so much about on behalf of Sam Ovens and his experiences. So thank you for watching this video, and so I've been reading 200 books for 4 years, and it's changed my life so much. It's insane. And I'm gonna continue reading books, and I think that let's say I make And let's say in the ending of this year, I've had a month where I made $40,000 in salary. I haven't done it in my entire life, but let's say I do that. That's basically like a huge paradigm change for me. Kind of like have this 12x. You have your monthly salary, your yearly salary as a monthly salary, which is what Bob Proctor gives an example. It's a huge paradigm change. If I do that this year, I believe I will do that. I will 100% tell you that reading is how I ended up here. And we'll have to wait for that moment, but I think that right now you have some evidence as proof. So read books. Don't do like me last year. I read 80% of my days. I didn't do a lot of outreach. Do the most important work, the most leverage action with the most leverage you can do. The majority of the day, but you still have time to read. So last night, for example, I worked 11 hours, and I did a lot of really good work. Worked for 11 hours, but I came home and I think I read for an hour or two, and I read. I probably read for 2 hours, and I read Richard Branson's "Losing My Virginity," and I was so excited reading that book. I was like, I want to stand and dance, and I was so excited. Such a good book. And there you have kind of my day right now. I'm here in the office working 11 hours. I'm going to be here probably the whole day, 10 hours now. I just got to the office, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to keep reading that book, probably read for 2 hours, and then just keep repeating that. I think that's really the best habit or routine that I could have. So thank you for watching this video, and I really hope that I think I've shared all the things that I wanted to share, and I really hope that you believe me when I say this and understand where this belief of mine come from. And thank you.